Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's doing all right today. Today is August 11th, 2019. So far, quite a peaceful day, if I might say so myself. In this video, I'm going to talk about a couple things, but I'm going to focus on one of the top stories today, talking about Donald Trump promoting a conspiracy theory about Jeffrey Epstein. And the Jeffrey Epstein case is something that's pretty interesting. Even most people who follow the news and believe what the mainstream media says knows that there's something probably up with the death of Jeffrey Epstein. But what I'm going to reveal in this video is that in all likelihood, the entire story about Epstein to begin with is likely a fabrication. And this man, who is just playing a character's role, is probably not really dead, nor was he involved in anything like this to begin with. However, this is just the theoretical part of it. What you will see is that this news story is entirely constructed by the numbers of Gematria. Gematria, or Gematria, is the ancient practice of coding numbers into words. A biblical practice, the Hebrew Torah coded in this language. Greek isopsephy, of course the Greek language, also very important to this code. But it's alive and well in English, and this story is an absolutely perfect example of how the mainstream media constructs its news stories. Because remember, these outlets are in the business of distraction, giving people things to talk about that are not in reality important. A quick shout out to everybody in the chat who already clicked the thumbs up and the like underneath this video before even seeing the content. Of course, I always deliver good content, so that's not the question, but with that aside, let's carry on. So first, we're going to talk about this man, Jeffrey Epstein, but we need to look at his full name, as we always pretty much do when we're talking about this language of Gematria. The name Jeffrey Edward Epstein, using the standard alphabetic order, where each letter is assigned a numeric value relative to its position in the alphabet 1 through 26. The name Jeffrey Edward Epstein has a numeric value of 218. Notice he was born on the date January 20th. This was Trump's inauguration day. In the reverse alphabetic order, where Z is assigned the number 1, Y is 2, X is 3, all the way through A is 26, January 20th also has this value of 218. So this makes sense that this guy is being used in a story to talk about conspiracy theory. Also in the reverse alphabetic order, conspiracy theory equals 218. And today, these stories always aligned with dates on the calendar. This language of Gematria, when compared to date numerologies and date durations, is where the real riddles lie. And it's the same measurement techniques in all of these stories. So today's primary numerology is 58. And notice how the phrase conspiracy theory sums to 58 in two of the alternate reduction methods, the Chaldean and septenary ciphers. Today's date of August 11th, think of 8 and 11 as the factors of the number 88. 8 multiplied by 11 gives us a product of 88. And this is where the riddle seems to lie. The name Trump in the alphabetic order equals 88. Here he is retweeting a conspiracy theory, which has a value of 88 in the reduction or Pythagorean method of Gematria, where each double-digit number is reduced to a single digit using the rules of numerology. This conspiracy theory is about a man named Epstein, whose name also equals 88 in the alphabetic order, and the comedian who originally tweeted about this conspiracy theory is named Terrence Williams. And check out how the name Terrence also gives us a value of 88. When you write out the number 88, notice how it has an ordinal value of 123. This is the same as the word conspiracy, 123. So already it's clear to see this story nothing more than a numeric ritual. And the fact that Donald Trump participates in these number games is as clear of a sign as any that he is part of this global cabal and is by no means trying to root out the evil or drain the swamp, as so many of his supporters continue to trumpet. Now, a little more about why Terrence Williams was chosen for this silly numeric ritual that the cabal thinks they're so clever for coming up with. Notice his Twitter handle, Terrence K. Williams. His Twitter handle is W Terrence. I'm not sure why he chose W. It's not in his name. But in any stretch, W Terrence equals 48 in the standard Pythagorean gematria. This is the same as the name Donald Trump. Now, 48 is a significant number today. When talking about the language of gematria and numerology, you must understand the significance of prime numbers. Notice how the 48th prime number is 223. And this is a very significant number. It's the number of synodic months in the Saros cycle, the cycle that allows us to predict the next lunar or solar eclipse. Donald Trump was born under a total lunar eclipse, actually technically on the same day as a total lunar eclipse, not during the eclipse. But check out today, August 11th, 8/11. Today is the 223rd day of the year. Donald Trump was inaugurated on the date January 20th, which, as we mentioned, was Jeffrey Epstein's birthday, his 64th. This means on that today's day, Donald Trump has been in office for 2 years, 203 days, giving us another link to 223, as the zeros in numerology can be ignored. Furthermore, check this out. If you instead convert this same measurement from the day Trump took office to the date of today's news story, you also get 30 months and 22 days, the inverse of 223. In the reverse alphabetic order, Jeffrey Edward Epstein sums to 322. Also, a couple more connections. The name Terrence in reverse sums to 47. So does the name Trump. Reverse ordinal 47. Twitter equals 47. And, of course, no president has been as active on Twitter as Donald Trump. The comedian is named Terrence K. Williams, as seen in his Twitter profile, Terrence Kentrell Williams, but abbreviated to K. In the alphabetic order, this name sums to 197. 197 is also a prime number. That would be the 45th prime number. And Donald Trump, president number 45. What's also significant with this man's name is his Jewish gematria. This cipher on the right side of your screen, based in the Latin alphabet, and is certainly the most significant outside of the base ciphers. Well, check out his gematria here, sums to 1407, a lot like the number 147, which is the reverse value of the word conspiracy. And then just to touch on a little bit about the death of Jeffrey Epstein, this character, as I contend, was coded for sacrifice from the beginning. His name equals 73 in reduction. Trump turned 73 years old this past June. 73 is a number of sacrifice. The phrase ritual sacrifice also with this 73 in reduction. Also, Jeffrey Epstein sums to 163 in the alphabetic order. And this, too, is a prime number, a significant one, the 38th prime number. 38, the number of death in the alphabetic order, the word killing, summing to 38. And perhaps worth mentioning, the word suicided equals 38. And again, even the normies who watch the mainstream media and believe what they see on the television probably believe that Jeffrey Epstein was suicided. And when we're looking at this, we're also looking at all moon numbers. You know, we started off this post talking about the number 218, the gematria of conspiracy theory, and Jeffrey Edward Epstein. Again, gematria based in the Hebrew language. And notice how the word for moon in Hebrew sums to 218. Then we mentioned how Jeffrey Epstein equals 163, the 38th prime number. Moon in Hebrew ordinal equals 38. Now, if you tack the word the in front of the moon, you get an additional Hebrew character, which gives us a numeric value of 223 in Hebrew Gematria. Again, 223 lunar phases in the Saros cycle, which is used for eclipses, and this was another significant number, today being the 223rd day of the year. A couple other interesting things here. Now, if you're familiar with my past work, I focus on how this language seems to be coded around the mathematics of the circle and pi, 3.14. Now, in Gematria, there's this really, really interesting alignment between the Jewish and ordinal ciphers. Mathematics of the circle sums to 666. Now, if you multiply 6 times 6 times 6, you get a product of 216. That's the ordinal value of the same phrase. The moon is said to be 2,160 miles with its equatorial radius. So that number, of course, has the 216 right in it. And consider that the phrase sex trafficking in Gematria equals 666. Jeffrey Epstein dying of suicide allegedly amidst allegations of sex trafficking. And when he died, he was the age of 66 years and 6 months old. But there's more to this, I think. Now, think about this. Mathematics of the circle, 666. When you write out 3.14, the Gematria of the first 3 digits of pi, you get a Jewish value of 888. And think about how this number is made up of 6 different circles. Each 8 has 2 of them. 6 circles sums to 609, just like pi equals 69. And I don't think this is a mistake. So not only does sex trafficking equal 666, but prostitution equals 888. So when we're talking about 3.14, which has this gematria of 888, we're talking about pi, which equals 16 and 11. The name Jeffrey Edward Epstein sums to 11 and 106, just like pi, 16 and 11. Call it a coincidence if you want, call it playing with numbers, but these types of riddles are always littered in here. Even the word pi summing to 25, this is the gematria of Trump, 25. Today's story features comedian Terrence Williams, which is 250. It just lines up too well to constantly be a coincidence. Now, as the other part of my video here, I want to touch on some more numerology. Of course, for several months, probably well over a year at this point, we've been talking about today's date, August 11th, and how significant this is. And this pretty much all centers around the fact that Tisha B'Av began at sundown yesterday evening, Saturday, August 10th. And if you're not familiar with Tisha B'Av, you need to be, because this is the type of knowledge that is not meant for the masses. But when you understand it, it makes things that happen in our nation much more clear. So Tisha B'Av is the Jewish holiday of mourning. This takes place on the 9th of Av every year. Now, Tisha B'Av sums to 134 in reverse, which happens to be the same as 9th of Av, 134. Tisha B'Av commemorates the destruction of the 2 temples, both of which are said to have been destroyed on the same date, the 9th of Av, which, of course, in and itself is a pretty big coincidence. Only 350-some days in the Jewish calendar. I have to think about that, 354. Anyway, so you see, each year the holiday is celebrated on a different date. Now, in America, we had the destruction of the 2 temples on the date September 11th, or 9/11, as it's written here in the United States. And in Gematria, Tisha B'Av equals 9/11 in the Jewish cipher. 9/11 is a prime number. Here we see it's the 156th prime. And in that same method, the phrase false flag equals 156. 156 also the gematria of 33, the number of years that the towers stood. Actually, technically, construction began 33 years. And even the Pentagon, construction of the Pentagon, which was also attacked that day, that began on the date September 11th in the year 1941. So all of these alignments are basically impossible unless they were coordinated in some method. And it's very difficult for me to believe that terrorists in caves on the other side of the planet were coordinating their attacks so that they aligned with Jewish holidays. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So anyway, there's a couple observations I made about Tisha B'Av today that I just want to share. And what this has to do with is Donald Trump's visit in the year 2017, just a few months after he was sworn into office of presidency. Trump visited the Western Wall in Jerusalem, and this visit was very ritualistic, very ceremonious. He was the first sitting president to visit the Western Wall. And, of course, this was done heavily by the numbers. So let's talk about this a little bit. Now, to begin, I'm actually going to just show you two ciphers. One of them you saw earlier. This would have been the English extended method on the left side of your screen. This cipher, structured the same as Hebrew Gematria and Greek isopsephy. You'll notice the numbers expand instead of contract as they do in Pythagorean Gematria. So this logical cipher seems to be significant, and you probably heard me say several times at least that Tisha B'Av specifically commemorates the destruction of the two temples. And I find it really interesting that in reverse extended Gematria, so this is where Z gets 1, cipher structured similarly to extended, except A gets the value 800. So Tisha B'Av sums to 2,510. And I couldn't help but notice that in the same method, but the standard order, instead of reverse, destruction of the two temples also has this value of 2,510 in essentially what is the same cipher, just reversed. And I figured, well, maybe that's one of those coincidences. But then I started running the numbers on Trump's visit to the wall, and I found that on that date, he was exactly 25,910 days old. So again, call it playing with numbers. But this is the number 2510 just with the number 9 in the middle. And in numerology, of course, 9 doesn't change the numerology of a number. So maybe, there's nothing to it, but I found it very interesting. Also consider this. The word destruction, using the alphabetic order, equals 148. In that same alphabetic order, two temples equals 148. And here we had Donald J. Trump, whose name equals 148 with that initial, visiting the Western Wall. Now, the date that he made this visit was May 22nd of 2017. And look how many days before August 11th this year this was. 811 days before 8/11. Pretty interesting stuff. Of course, Donald Trump, the wall president, he was announced the winner of the election on the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. It was the 28th anniversary, by the way, of the fall of the Berlin Wall. Tisha B'Av equals 28 in reduction. And now Donald Trump's in the news because he's trying to build a wall. Donald Trump equals 48. So does the word wall in the alphabetic order. Remember earlier this year, on the date January 8th, which had 48 numerology, Trump gave a speech about the wall. And the date was January 8th, or 108. Berlin Wall equals 108. Measuring again from his visit to this year's August 11th, we saw it was 811 days. However, if you include the end date, this is also 116 weeks exactly. In reduction, destruction of the two temples equals 116. And this is pretty interesting, as a matter of fact, when you think about it, because the number 116 upside down is 911. And remember, Tisha B'Av, summing to 911 in Jewish Gematria. In the year 2001, the holiday Tisha B'Av fell on July 28th and July 29th. So if you measure from the date of that year's Tisha B'Av to the 9/11 attacks, you get either 44 days. If you measure to the first date, it was a span of 46. 9th of Av equals both 44 and 46. Now, in regards to the number 116, the Gematria of destruction of the two temples, again, it was exactly 116 weeks between Trump's visit to the Western Wall and this year's August 11th. If I can type in my own calculator, there we see the 116 weeks again. And just think about the number 116. This is 58 times 2. Today has 58 numerology. Today is also 58 days after Donald Trump's birthday. Our last president, Barack Obama, turned 58 years old exactly 1 week ago. In Gematria, Solomon's Temple equals 58. After Solomon's Temple was destroyed, we had the Second Temple, which equals 58. That was called Herod's Temple, also 58. And now they're discussing the construction of the Third Temple, which equals 58. Of course, that Third Temple would go in Jerusalem, which equals 58 in reverse. And I do believe United States, with the S exception, summing to 58 as well. Freemasonry, 58. Of course, the secret society. At the helm of all these rituals. Trump was even sworn in on a date with numerology of 58. And what's really crazy is if you measure from 9/11/2001, the date of those horrible attacks on the minds of the people, you get exactly 17 years and 11 months from 9/11 to today, August 11th. And what's 1711? 1711 is the 58th triangular number. Right there in the duration from 9/11 to August 11th. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for this video. Just wanted to share some of that with you, show you the obvious numerology that was in place for the story about Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, Terrence Williams, and a little bit about Tisha B'Av, which is knowledge that everybody who wants to understand what's really going on in this world needs to know. But, be careful. Don't talk too loudly when you're teaching about Tisha B'Av. You may be considered to be anti-Semitic, just discussing their holiday and everything. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. And, yeah, I think today will probably stay pretty peaceful. But you never know. All right, guys. Peace, love, and God bless. See ya.